When it comes to towing, seeing is believing. That's why Chevy Truck's advanced camera technology offers up to 8 available cameras for 14 unique views, so you can focus on the view that really matters. Chevrolet, together let's drive. Learn more about Chevy Trucks at Chevy.com. Safety or driver assistance features are no substitute for the driver's responsibility to operate the vehicle in a safe manner. Read the vehicle owner's manual for important feature limitations and information.
It's the second half. Welcome back to the Manchester United Weekly Podcast. This is part 2 of our pre-season review, recorded as we watch United against Liverpool, the final friendly before the Community Shield. If you've not yet listened to part 1, feel free to go back and do so, or continue here as we talk transfers, the academy, and this Liverpool fixture. Our patrons get an extra 30 minutes of discussion on the Olympics, the Euros, more on Leny Yoro, and loads more on transfers as well. So sign up to become a patron to hear that too. Discussion on De Ligt and Mazwari and Ugarte as well. And let's get stuck back in. Let's talk transfers. 2 of them so far for Manchester United. Leny Yoro joining from Lille for a significant fee, 62 million euros. And Joshua Zirkzee coming from Bologna, a 23-year-old striker for 42.5 million euros. Leny Yoro, first of all, an exciting signing. This is all with the caveat that he's now got injured for 3 months. And it's tough, isn't it? You know, we wondered the whole of last season about whose fault were the injuries, United or a training ground, or was it just really bad luck? This feels like quite bad luck again. I don't think there's any question that Rasmus Højlund hadn't prepared properly for the season. I certainly saw loads of stuff on his Instagram building up to before he joined up with United's pre-season, working really hard to make sure he was fit, but then gets a hamstring injury when he plays after scoring a great goal, and he looked really sharp and he looked really up for it. And so real disappointment that Højlund's out for 6 weeks, and Leny Yoro maybe even more of a blow to morale because a couple of good performances, looking composed, and metatarsals tend to be pretty freak injuries generally.
Yeah.
It's really bad luck. 3 months out. But let's try and put that to the back of our mind and think about the long term, because it's an exciting signing. There's no guarantee, but it's a classic old United move. Identify the best player of their age group in their position and sign them for whatever it takes, in the mould of Wayne Rooney and Cristiano Ronaldo and Rio Ferdinand, Ruud van Nistelrooy. He joins, as you've kind of listed through them earlier, Rasmus, Toby, Alejandro Garnacho, all under the age of 21. That's some spine to build around. And yeah, it's exciting. And getting to beat, yes, it means we paid a lot more than they were ever going to pay. But beating Real Madrid to a signing is something, I think even internally within the club, just feels like a big morale boost to the recruitment team. In this sense that, oh, hold on, that means quite a lot, actually.
Yeah, look, I mean, beating Real Madrid to a signing is no mean feat. This doesn't happen very often. Normally, once it's sort of known that Real Madrid are interested in a player and the player is interested back, it's a done deal. So many young players at Real Madrid have hoovered up over the last 5 years or so. Camavinga, Tchouaméni, both also from France, gone to Real Madrid. There's a long line of players that United have missed out on.
Go further back.
Varane.
Rafa Varane.
Exactly.
That's the...
Benzema before that as well. Although,
Varane's such an interesting one
because
Varane played for Lens, the club near to Lille, another one in North France, another kind of smaller club. And both of them came into the first teams there really early on. They both have a similar style of play. They both looked set to join Real Madrid, but United were interested, and Varane took one path, Leny Yoro's taking the other. It was Zidane who convinced Varane to join Real Madrid. It's Rio Ferdinand who convinces Leny Yoro to join Man United. There's loads of similarities, and it's just really interesting to see how it'll go for the both of them. And
Rio Ferdinand is probably the biggest parallel you could think of for Leny Yoro. You know, coming in very young age on a lot of money. It's a lot of pressure to come in on, but I think widely regarded as probably the best centre back prospect in the world. Certainly that young.
Yeah, and I was with him on the day he signed for United.
Leny Yoro, Manchester United player. How does that sound?
Incredible. This is a really big sensation. This is a dream when I was young. So I'm really happy.
I'll never get tired of that. It's one of the greatest, it's such a buzz seeing, especially because the 2 times I've done it, the other time was with Rasmus Højlund about a year ago. In fact, it might have been a year ago today. But the 2 I've done have been 2 young players, obviously. So Leny Yoro 18, Rasmus was 20 when he signed. And particularly for them, for any player, but particularly for them. Rasmus, a boyhood United fan. Leny Yoro clearly did want to join Real Madrid, but also I spoke to him. His dad had a real affection for the Premier League and for United. And when he was watching the Premier League as a kid, as a really young kid, the United were a brilliant team. And he obviously held a massive respect and did dream of playing for United, even if he dreamt of playing for Real Madrid as well. To see young players having worked so hard put on the United shirt for the first time is a proper buzz. And you get to see what it means to them. And you're standing there thinking, God, I can't imagine how good that must feel. And you're basically jealous. But
give us an insight. Take us inside that. You said you spent an hour with him. Take us inside that. How was he? How did he come across? What did you talk about? Obviously, we've seen, I'm sure everyone has probably seen by now some of the clips on social media of the interview that you did with him. But anything that stood out about him, either his demeanour, sort of who he is as a person, or any of the answers that he gave. Yeah.
If you want to see like a full, I made a day in the life clip because I was bored afterwards. So if anyone wants to see a full day in the life, what it's like to interview a player like this, I won't run through it all again, but it's on YouTube if you want to see it. I'll link it in the podcast notes. Essentially, the player comes in, they initially do, to give you a shortened version of the day in the life, they initially do what they call the hero shoot. So in the kit for the first time, the clips, the kind of dramatic, exciting clips that you'll first see when it's announced.
Yeah.
So they do that first. And then sometimes the interview won't be for another 2 hours or something. On this occasion, which was actually really helpful, as the interviewer, he then immediately came over. So he's quite fresh and ready. So those days can be quite long. There's a lot of things to get through. There's a lot going on for a player to basically process. Like, as you say, it's massive pressure. He's 18. But he came over and we had a bit of a chat off camera, and then a couple of different bits, a formal interview, a bit where we showed him a clip from Rio Ferdinand, and then I afterwards helped him signing some shirts and helps the social guys do a few bits with him as well. He's just so calm, and he didn't turn up. He's got a few agents. He's represented by Jorge Mendes' agency. I don't think necessarily Mendes himself, but he's clearly got a decent sized entourage, as most good young players do at the moment. But he left them all at Carrington. He came by himself, and he was just really calm, excited. He admitted he was a shy person, and he kind of got that sense. But he seemed to kind of be keeping the eagerness that he had to sign for United bottled up a little bit. But occasionally it would come out in this like little grin or little laugh, and which was nice. The same feelings I had after interviewing Rasmus and spending time with him on his first day. Just ridiculously calm and mature for a player of that age. He was obviously excited. He was really polite. He apologised for his English being a bit rubbish, and then he started speaking English, and we said, "What are you talking about? It's amazing." But yeah, really polite and made a good impression. It's the little things. It's kind of the cliche to note these things, but he went around, said hello to everyone at the start, and then at the end, when he was leaving, he didn't just like wave goodbye. He went to all four corners of the studio we were in and shook everyone's hand and said thank you, and then left and went back to Carrington. It's all good signs, and some really interesting things in the interview. Like, I wanted to ask him about what Angel Gomez had said, who he played with at Lille.
We spoke a lot about United. He just told me this is the biggest club in the world. You know, the fan, even the way to play, the training camp, everything is really big, is really incredible. Every day I spoke with him about this, and he helped me a lot to come there.
Is he happy for you now?
Yeah, he's really happy for me. He sent me a message directly. So, yeah.
He was interesting when he was reacting to Rio Ferdinand.
I'll let you over that. I'll let you have a watch through.
Leny.
It's crazy. What do you make of that?
Rio Ferdinand, this is a legend in Man United. So for me, this is an honor. This is a big defender, a legend. So, yeah, big honor for me.
And the fact they used to pretend to be Nanny in the playground. It's like, I remember watching the interview back, and I do react to it. I say really, but I don't think it quite sunk in.
Who would you pretend to be in the playground or on the pitch where you were playing? Which player were you kind of dreaming that you were like?
A lot of people compare me to Leny.
Yeah?
Yeah, when I was young, because I was fast like him, and I love this player. For me, it was a target to be like him, but now this is not the same because I'm defender. Yeah. But this was my player.
How kind of little bit peculiar that is, that he was pretending to be Nani, a kind of a French kid who was playing. To be fair, I don't think at the time he was playing at centre back. He was basically saying he was a really skillful kind of winger when he was younger. So that's why he was compared to Nani, and so he kind of took it on. But he also seemed really excited to play in front of English crowds, which was nice. So I thought he came across really well in the interview, and there were a few bits where I asked kind of off the cuff questions, and I was probably speaking a little bit too quickly, and he wanted the question said again, and I said, "Oh, right, don't worry about it. We can move on. We don't have to do that one." And he was like, "No, I want to make sure we do it," which is something that Bruno Fernandes does as well. Like he's stubbornly, he's like, I want to do everything. Yeah. Even little things Bruno will do is like, if there's a bit of a tongue twister that he needs to do a piece to camera. So like he's been asked to say something for a sponsor or a message to someone, and it's a little bit of a tongue twister in English, but he'll refuse to do it any other way or like shorten the line. He just insists that I will get it and I'll do it like 9 or 10 times. I want to get it. It's like a competitiveness for doing. Yeah. It's obviously a stubborn streak that he has that I think we see come across on the pitch as well. And Leny Yoro had a bit of that as well. So it was great to be there. He seemed, I really liked him. He gave off a really good impression. So I'm excited about him.
You could tell his excitement came across during the interview. Like you said, he came across a little bit shy, but to be honest, I wonder if part of that was, like you said, just having to do an interview in English is not easy as someone who doesn't speak English natively. He came across as someone who was, shy, but you could see certain questions really sort of made his eyes glint a little bit, and you could tell the excitement that he had, just sort of taking in everything around him.
Yeah. I said to him at the end, to do that at your age in a second language with like all these people watching on a really busy day, you should be pretty proud of yourself, because I think it's so underappreciated how hard it is to do an interview in another language anyway. But to do it when all of this stuff is going on as well is, I don't think people appreciate that side of footballers enough. And to do it at 18 is always a good sign. If someone can, just being able to speak another language that well is a good sign of someone's kind of dedication and commitment and willingness to learn. So, Joshua Zirkzee as well, fantastic English, which is no surprise for a Dutchman. Also a exciting, interesting signing. Another very tall, well-built striker, but more imposing than Rasmus Højlund. But funnily enough, they both kind of confound the stereotypes of big strikers, really. And Zirkzee is not a massive target man like Wout Weghorst. In fact, Weghorst was playing over him at the Euros because he was more of a target man. Well, what did you think of this one? I
think you hit the nail on the head with the interesting, more than probably most signings that I think United have made in the last few years, just because this is a player that, I don't think really any of our listeners would probably have heard much about before. So not only playing in Italy, but playing for Bologna, not a particularly high-profile club, despite having a really good season that Zirkzee was a big part of. But also, I think he, again, have not watched much of Zirkzee at all, as I'm sure you haven't either. But from what I know about his profile, and obviously a lot of sort of the reading that you do about him since the signing seemed like it was going to be happening, he seems like a bit of a throwback sort of second striker type role, actually, to me. And I'm intrigued about how Ten Hag imagines using him, because on paper that doesn't really fit, does it, with how this United team sets up. He will functionally be a number 9. Whenever he plays, you would imagine, unless there's some scenario where he plays alongside Højlund, you'd imagine he'll be lining up as our number 9. And he may well be playing there quite a lot at the start of the year while Højlund is still recovering from this hamstring injury. But he isn't by any means a similar kind of number 9 as Højlund. He isn't someone that's going to really be running in behind the way that Højlund wants to. Like you said, despite them both being physically sort of have that target man sort of physical profile, neither of them are real target man type of players. Zirkzee is someone who, from everything that I know about him, is someone that's going to want to drop deep receive the ball on the half turn, run at players, and probably I think actually, probably his best quality is his creativeness. He ranks very, very high among strikers for his assists, chances created, key passes, through balls, everything like that, which is really exciting. But
he could play really well with Haaland.
Yeah.
But going back to what you were saying earlier about slightly excessive strength in depth, or not all of them strong, but excessive depth or options out wide. You're looking at something similar, not as the striker, but that number 10 role. You've already got Bruno Fernandes. You're hoping we now get, and we love Bruno, you're hoping you're going to have now a fully fit Mason Mount. We go back to summer when we signed Mount and we thought of this issue already. How does Mason Mount fit in? As it turns out last season, not at all really. You then got now a second striker role that Bruno has played sometimes. And if Zirkzee and Haaland are going to play together, and this is a possibility that Ten Hag experimented with that 4-2-2 at the end of the season, 2-2-2 in front of a back four, and with some good results. It got us. It was the formation that kind of stabilised things at the end of the season.
Yeah.
The problem is you limit Bruno massively, one of the most amazing creative players in the Premier League.
Right, Zirkzee playing alongside Haaland compromises either Bruno Fernandes playing, or it means you play none of your 5 wingers.
Yeah, and the competition essentially for 3 places between the following players: 1 Rashford, 2 Ahmad, 3 Garnacho, 4 Bruno, 5 Mount, 6 Anthony, 7 Sancho becomes competition for 2 spots in the team.
Yeah.
That's quite difficult. But the fact we're going through all these options shows he's a really good, versatile extra option for United to have.
Yeah.
But it strikes a little bit of the Mason Mount signing.
Exactly. That was my first thought as soon as it was announced.
Where you think there's lots of this could be really good, but this is a decent sized fee for someone who seems like a bit of a rotation option.
Yeah.
So I'm loath to make predictions because I haven't watched him enough. He seems like a really good player. I'm just interested to see how this goes and quite how he fits in. For him, luckily, Haaland's now injured for the first 6 weeks of the season, and he has this opportunity to really stake his claim. He's not gone on tour. He's been training at Carrington for the last week or so.
Yeah.
So he might start the Community Shield, and he's got a great opportunity.
I mean, I'm excited to watch him. I think he's he's a profile striker that you don't see very often anymore. There's someone who really wants to get on the ball. We've seen there's such an increase now in sort of 2 types of strikers. One is sort of the Kai Havertz mould, where they're not really strikers at all. They are number 10s that are just being played a little bit further forward. They're dropping deep. Or it's increasingly the sort of true number 9, I guess, if that's the way you want to say it, like a Haaland, like a Haaland. That move is actually going towards having really few touches in a game, not really being involved quite so much in build-up at all in the way that strikers used to be. This real sort of move towards them just being players to get on the end of attacks and really being sort of crashing into the box and making those runs in behind. Zirkzee doesn't really fit into either of those molds. He's sort of somewhere in between, someone who is definitely not a number 10 sort of being pushed a little bit forward, but is also not going to be a number 9 that isn't going to be involved. He's a player who will want to see the ball, who want to try and receive it, I said, on the half turn and run at players, link up with the wingers around him. It's exciting. And like you said, the Mason Mount sign is a very easy comparison because that was exciting too. And we, to be fair, talking about standouts in pre-season, I think Mount has also been one of them. He's clearly a very, very good football player, but it's just a question of where are they going to fit in this United team? And I don't know the answer to that.
You've got this interesting thing in pre-season, and we're going to preview the Community Shield in our next episode. All these players who look decent on pre-season, but back home at Carrington, you've got kind of half the starters of your team. Zirkzee, Garnacho, Bruno probably all start in the Community Shield, probably all start in the first Premier League game of the season. Other players who have impressed are going to drop to the bench. To be fair, Ahmad will probably start ahead of Garnacho in the Community Shield. So you'll have Ahmad and Rashford probably with Zirkzee and Brett. Anyway, we'll talk about that properly in our preview. But it's an interesting state of affairs where United have had a good pre-season, but actually not all of these players have been able to gel together properly. So we'll have to see how things happen. We're going to talk about what more transfers we want to see in our Patreon Q&A. So if you want to hear our discussion on that, sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/United Weekly Podcast, or go to our Twitter to find out more information on how to do that for as little as £1.50 a week. I got slightly distracted when you were talking earlier about Joshua Zirkzee, because a fantastic last-ditch tackle from Harry Amass turned and
brilliant.
Played a lovely ball forward, and then Casemiro lost the ball almost immediately. I thought, is this a sign of what's to come for the first couple of games of the season? We haven't really got time to talk about Casemiro now, but it's an interesting one, and perhaps in our next episode.
Yeah,
but
the signs have looked worryingly similar to last year. Let's just leave it at that.
The difference is you're hoping United have much stronger midfield options elsewhere. Exciting from Harry Amass.
McTominay's just missed an absolute sitter, by the way. I think I'm a few seconds ahead of you. You'll see it in a second. Crossed in by Harry Amass, actually.
He's just, Amass is, Scott. Harry's just such a positive fullback. Yeah. Do you remember United were afflicted with this disease after Louis van Gaal, where fullbacks couldn't cross the halfway line. As soon as they crossed the halfway line, they would pass backwards, and they would only ever pass backwards. And I think we've managed to get out of it. But Harry Amass certainly doesn't have that. Everything is about forwards. He's a really direct fullback, and he's just been so fun to watch for the under-18s. He's a cheeky little 17-year-old who, and I feel like that kind of comes across in his play as well. And on the subject of Harry Amass and young players in the academy, let's have the academy briefing.
Okay, round 2. Name something that's not boring.
A laundry? Ooh, a book club. Computer solitaire, huh?
Sorry, we were looking for Chumba Casino. That's right. ChumbaCasino.com has over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Some interesting, on the subject of transfers as well, some interesting news to start with, that Arsenal striker, really highly rated 16-year-old Arsenal striker, Chido Obi Martin, looks likely to sign for United. If that move goes through, he's been of interest to loads of top clubs, and Arsenal are very, very keen to keep him, but that's become clear that won't happen. If it goes through in the next couple of days or the next week or at least the next few weeks, he would initially sign on a scholarship, but with a pre-agreed professional contract for his 17th birthday, the same as many players have done over the years, including Harry Amass last summer from Watford. Obi Martin has joined Arsenal in 2022. He spent some time with KB and FC Copenhagen in Denmark, where he's from. So he's not been with Arsenal for absolutely ages. He's made a lot of headlines since he joined them. He scored 10 goals in a 14-3 win for their under-16s against Liverpool. He scored a ridiculous 29 goals in 17 under-18 league games at the age of 16. It's a properly extraordinary record. That being said, it's far from the perfect predictor of senior success. Charlie McNeil, for example, who's left United this summer and signed for Sheffield Wednesday on a free transfer, scored absolute bucket loads at youth level, but couldn't transform that into senior form. If United were to sign Obi Martin, it's a serious statement of intent at academy level, because there's been competition from domestic rivals. Arsenal wants to keep them, one of our own rivals, and loads of competition from abroad, particularly from Bayern Munich and Borussia Dortmund, two really attractive propositions. I mean, he would be moving closer to home, closer to Denmark, and as a non-English player, you feel that's easier move to make. Yeah, absolutely. He's 16 years old, striker, 6'2" already. So the concern, if there was to be one, is that he's far more physically developed than his peers, the players he's playing against. Can he translate this incredible scoring form and quality into senior football? But United will have presented a really kind of detailed development plan to him. All clubs will have done. But it is interesting to note there's been a real emphasis on this recruitment process at academy level in recent years, stretching back 2 or 3 years pre-Ineos. Not related to that. It stretches across a few reasons, partly just the continued kind of re-establishing of United's academy as the best in England, which is, I think, possibly done already, but has been going on for the last 8 or 9 years now, and there's still a lot of room for improvement. The staff at the academy would say that they want to push further and further on. But the impact of Brexit means that United cannot sign European players until they turn 18, nor can any other English club. So competition for the best talents within the UK has become higher than ever. So United have done really well so far. Eli Harrison, the goalkeeper from Stevenage, Harry Amass from Watford, the Fletcher brothers from Manchester City. And when you compare that to previous summers, going back, you're looking at European signings. So Timothy Fosu-Mensah, Teeth Chong, many others. More recently, Alejandro Garnacho, Willy Campoala, who made their debuts for the under-18s in the same month back in October 2020. The sheer competition now for British players means that United are more and more focused on making this process better and better. And it sounds like it is getting properly impressive, and the presentations given to players and their parents detailing what kind of games program they'll be given, the education, something all top clubs do, but I think it's fair to say United are doing it really well. So credit to the burgeoning recruitment team and staff there, and this would be a major, I can't think of an academy signing between two top English clubs of this significance for quite some time if it does go through. And I'm sure the chance to work with Ruud van Nistelrooy would have helped as well. But crucial will be the first team pathway, what he's been told about what he can expect about United. And the examples given to him will be, well, look, Ethan Wheatley's made a couple of appearances already. Marcus Rashford is a better example than any you're going to get at Arsenal or at other clubs. And United have such a good record compared to other clubs historically, but also in the last however many years. You could look at the last season, you could look at the last 5, 10, 20. United are almost always going to come out on top in the Premier League. Ineos have to make sure that continues, and I'm sure they will. Suggestions of another signing, James Overy. I think this one, reports say is waiting FA approval. A young Australian right back who impressed last season in a performance against West Ham for Perth Glory. He moved to England with his family last summer. Left Perth Glory, he's been playing for non-league team's first team, only 16 years old, alongside his brother Jack. And if he joins United, he'll now move more to north to Manchester from Devon. And that's a really interesting signing as well. An Australian right back and who's played first team football already. And if he joins, he'll play with the under-18s. Load of under-16s who've been naturally have signed scholarships and will play in the under-18s next season. I'll go through them all properly in our next episode coming out on Wednesday. And as we speak, United's under-18s are playing at a tournament in Zagreb, and we'll go through them another time as well. A couple of departures. Amari Forsum has gone to Monza at the end of his contract, and Charlie McNeil's gone to Sheffield Wednesday. And the saddest of them all for me is Willy Campoala leaving Manchester United. I don't think I've ever loved a United player like Willy Campoala. He was just the most lovely person you could meet, and made such a positive impact on everyone he spoke to. Was so down to earth, so desperate to play for United. And he has played for United several times, and he's obviously now decided that to progress his career properly, this is a good move to go to Villarreal. But if I'm working at Carrington Moore next season, I will really miss the presence of Willy Campoala, because he just lit a room up, because he was so lovely and spoke to everyone and would sit at the front of the Carrington reception waiting for like his taxi home and just chat to whoever was coming past him. There's like no airs and graces whatsoever. So I'll miss Big Willy, because I loved seeing him play for United and loved chatting to him.
No, I'm reacting all over the place here because I've got no idea how United haven't scored. We're 3-0 down for anyone still keeping track. And I just looked at the stats when you were speaking there. We've had 15 shots to Liverpool's 6. We just had 2 massive chances in the last 30 seconds. Still haven't managed to put it in the net. Just
seen Ethan Wheatley shaking his head as
exactly.
Said. Oh, another one.
Yeah, exactly. That was the second one from the resulting corner.
Casemiro heading wide with the captain's armband on. Right, we're going to go into a Patreon Q&A, which will take us through to full time, at which point we will review this game. It's 3-0 as we speak, and perhaps things will change. Perhaps an incredible comeback is on the cards. Coming out of the Patreon Q&A, we've just been talking about United's midfield. We were reviewing the transfer window. We spoke about plenty of other things as well, including the arrival of Dan Ashworth and Jason Wilcox, etc., and the changes above Erik Ten Hag, which we didn't talk about in the normal episode. But we're talking about the midfield and whether Casemiro starting the season is a right decision, whether United have enough to be competitive in midfield. And on the basis of that defeat to Liverpool that we've just seen, full-time United 0, Liverpool 3, it does feel like that's the glaring issue going into the season for United. This performance obviously didn't include Kobbie Mainoo, who will be back very soon, nor did it include Bruno Fernandes. But that feels like the big issue going into these first few weeks of the season, and feels like a little bit of the downfall of this performance. But there were lots of chances and United could have scored a few. So what did you make of this game? And do you agree on that statement?
Well, this game, to be fair, I actually think United played all right for the vast majority of it, despite the scoreline. I think I mentioned in the Patreon Q&A that after Liverpool had scored their third goal, we missed a couple of great chances. We'd had something like 15 or 17 shots, Liverpool 6. Hadn't managed to get any of them, obviously, in the back of the net. Similar issues, to be honest, to what we saw last season, which again has carried on throughout pre-season, really. I think we're playing okay on the ball, look dangerous out wide with Rashford and Amass. The finishing could be better, which was a theme of last year. And then I think the big glaring issue is that it's far too easy for teams to play through us. That was the issue today. All 3 goals kind of came from fairly swift Liverpool attacks after our own attacks had broken down. Fullbacks pushing very high up the pitch and not really accounting for that. Casemiro getting caught out and Collyer also, not being able to get back quickly enough. I mean, we also had a centre-back partnership of Evans and Lindelof, so it's not like we weren't exactly blessed with pace back there either. So,
and that's kind of the thing, is you don't want to judge on this too much, but given the misfortune we had with injuries last season, and we've seen it again today, so that's now Leny Yoro injured for 3 months, Rasmus Højlund for 6 weeks, Will Fish has just gone off with what looks like a really serious injury, and Aaron Wan-Bissaka's gone off injured. We've also had knocks on this tour to Rashford and Anthony and a couple of others.
Yeah.
There could be a scenario where, like last season when Johnny Evans was having to come on against Arsenal away at the Emirates and we all thought, this isn't how it's meant to be. And then he ended up playing 30 times for the club. We could be in a scenario where these players are having to play and United won't do much if we're having to play this team every week, realistically. And not only will we not do much, but going back to the start when I said to you, what does Ten Hag have to do to make progress? And one of the things was the style of play. If we're playing this team, we're not going to be able to do that at all. No.
Well, and you could see so many times in the game, we had the ball at the back and, it'll be cycled between Evans, Lindelof and Onana. And Onana's he's crying out for options and he doesn't get it. Both Evans and Lindelof, they aren't the kind of defenders that want to receive the ball under pressure and look to play forward. Casemiro isn't good enough, isn't secure enough in possession at this point in his career to really be receiving the ball with his back to goal in possession either. Onana's looking for options and they aren't there, especially with Wan-Bissaka right back too. That takes away another potential outball, that Dalot can normally give us. So there are issues, there are familiar issues. But again, despite that, I actually thought in possession, I thought United played quite well for the majority of the game and I think deserved a lot more from it than a 3-0 defeat.
Yeah, some concerns over Casemiro, undoubtedly. And
yeah, definitely.
I think that'll be one of the major talking points for the next few weeks.
There was a point, I don't know if you saw this, Harry, I think you were talking at the time in the Patreon Q&A. He went back to centre-back, Casemiro did, because he played the whole 90 minutes, and after Will Fish went off injured, he went back into centre-back. There was a point at about 85 minutes where Liverpool were again on the counter-attack. Casemiro, I don't know, it was one of Liverpool's youth players. He was making a run in behind, and Casemiro followed the run, and he was a good 15 yards behind any other United defender. I think because he's so worried about, him getting in behind and losing him on pace, so he wants to keep a yard goal side of him, but he's literally 15 yards behind the rest of the United defence.
Just seeing a couple of replays of Liverpool's goals. At least one of them was offside.
Yeah, the second one I think that was, or the third one.
Not a great spill from Onana either. Anyway, it's pre-season, these games. Certainly results don't matter, and United's team looks a lot worse after a lot of changes and there's been too many injuries. But it's a concern going into a season which starts early with the Community Shield with a slightly stretched squad already. And Ten Hag has to make the most of it. But it's been lovely to be back Thank you for listening, everyone. For more from us throughout the week, you can find Jack on Twitter at
UTD Tait, Tait.
And you can find me at Harry Robinson64 and the podcast itself at UTD Weekly Pod. If you want to sign up to be a patron and get, I don't know what percentage it is, but 10, 15, 20 minutes extra per episode, then you can for as little as £1.50 a month. Yeah, you can do that by going to patreon.com/United Weekly Podcast, or go to our Twitter for details as well. And coming in a few days, we will be previewing the Community Shield, and we'll be hearing an exclusive interview from one of Manchester United's greatest players. I think the most decorated player in English football of all time, Mr. Paul Scholes. So plenty to look forward to. Thank you for listening. Have a great few days. Goodbye.
Sports Social Podcast Network.